Well, it is summer, the sun's out, there's a few rain showers, and the grass has grown very well on my layout. Come see how I did it. Right, so where I left it last time with the layout was the concrete apron was completed. Still a bit dark for the weathering, but I'm sure when I add our scenery that'll blend in. So I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm not going to touch it. As you can see, I've started work on the scenic break. So the back here where the farm track is. So I've just put a little bit of card there just to sort of tidy up the edge. And then I've just used foam board formers to start marking out the shape of how I want the scenery. And then I'm going to fill this in with sculptor mould. And that sort of be the farm track around there. Bridges are glued in place. One of the concerns I have with the bridge is when I've been gluing it in place, it's the clearance coming in off this curve. The Mark ones are okay going through there, but my concern is the Class 66. So I've sort of shifted it backwards and forwards by a couple of mil a few times just to try and guess what would be the best clearance. I don't know if I've given it enough. I'll have to obviously wait until a 66 comes out. Because they're obviously longer than a Mark 1, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. No pun intended there. This bridge then, because of the shifting around of everything, I've just had to shift the track a little bit that way to make sure there's still a bit of clearance, because it was still quite tight for stuff passing through. So I obviously don't want to hit the edge of the bridge. So that's all glued down in place. That's just waiting for the sculptor mould. This warehouse is actually the only building now, well, excluding the depot, because obviously I need to lift that up in case things derail in there or I need to clean the track. So that's not glued down, but that is held in place by the floor that I made for it. So it sort of locks in. But yeah, this is the only one that's not currently glued down because I want to do the floor around it and then put it on top. The signal box is in place, this warehouse over here, and the bridge here. And then what I intend to do over here is I'll put a back scene on, and then I'll have a wall roughly to about here, and then the wall will end, and then it'll sort of be foliage and trees, etc. just around here, just to sort of make a bridge between the end of the wall and the start of the warehouse, but sort of blocking your eye from seeing anything beyond. So that's the plan. The other thing is I need to put walking routes in for drivers so they can get to their locos. So more likely I'll put the one in here to come down to this siding and this siding, and then we'll cross the tracks here and have another one here. I'll put some railings in here to stop drivers wandering towards the main line. They just can't be trusted. And then over here, I think I discussed it in the last episode, but obviously I need to build some sort of fuel pump to empty the tank wagons that send it through a pipe under the ground, which comes into here, fills these up. I've noticed on the ones when I looked at them, when I got to work after building them, there's actually a connecting pipe between the top. And there's a lot more pipe work around the bottom, but I don't know what each pipe does, so it's kind of hard to sort of guess and look. But we'll see. I'm quite happy with how that looks. And then, as I say, I just need a fueling shed here, just so they can actually fuel the locos. So that's the plan. So I started on the walkways. These are just thick cars, about a minute and a half. It's the mount board stuff, just sandwiched together. I'm just going to have across there, a few bits across there. I just need to make another bit to go just across here to the concrete apron. So cut them up, glue them together. I'm just going to put some reddish brown paint on these ones, and then I looked at sort of images of the carriage sidings at Oxford, and on one side, yeah, there's sort of a reddish brown path, but then crossing over the track is a sort of rubber black mat. So I'll paint them black and have these red. So I've been working on the fielding facilities. I've been doing that whilst I've been watching Tris, Double O'Neill on his live stream. So thanks Tris for a great evening. It's been, like I said in the stream, feels a bit like a model railway club. So yeah, what I've done here, unloading facilities. I couldn't find many photos. I found a photo on RM web that someone had got, and there was facilities that look like this, like a small unloading sort of siding, like in an industrial estate or something. So just like a couple of water cranes really, but I was assuming they just put the pipe in and suck the fuel out. So that's the idea I've gone here. So I've got these posts that I think they came from the Daypole crane. I'm not sure, there's so much in my scrap box now, I'm not really entirely sure where bits come from. And then above, these are just two spurs off a couple of wagon kits that are just the right shape. Sort of obviously get that angle there, and then I tried different things, I couldn't get anything to work, so I've just gone with a bit of elastic band, and I don't know how well it's going to take paint. This is really an experiment, but I've just sort of super glued them on the ends there, so that they're just tied up out of the way, just allow the wagons to come in. So you can unload 2 at a time. Siding I think I made big enough for 3 or 4 wagons, but that obviously adds extra operational interest because that means you can shunt 2 in and then you have to pull them out and shunt the other 2 in to unload them. So yeah, I'm just going to let the glue dry on that. Particularly up here where I've used plastic cement to weld these together, and let that dry and cure overnight, and then I'll give it a spray tomorrow and we'll see if the primer sticks to the elastic band or not. There we are then, that's the fuel unloading facility now painted up. So I just gave it a primer in black, and then I've just gone over the floor with grey, painted the posts grey, kept the elastic bands in the black primer, which I think they look quite good. So hopefully that paint will stay on there. And then just to sort of give the impression that there is more going on, I've got some maintenance hatches. That's where the pump is. There's the controls in this cabinet, which is just one of those signalling cabinets I've just decided just to add. So yeah, the fuel, obviously, pipe goes in the tank, turn the pump on, fuel goes through there, in the pipe under the ground to these storage tanks over here, and then they'll come out the tanks to the fueling point once they get that put in there. Just to sort of tidy things up on the layout then, and because I had some spare paint left over when I was painting the fuel point, I just painted around a bit of grey around the track, and then I decided just to fill in the grass areas, what will be the grass areas, a bit of brown. So it's amazing what a difference just adding that little bit of paint makes. So you get a rough idea of what I'm going for now. Right, I decided to make some hand point levers for the depot, because obviously it's not going to be worked by point motor, it'll be just shunters going around, moving the points by, well, hand point. So this is just made up with, I've just cut a strip of plastic card, 4mm by 3mm rectangles, and then I think this is from a ratio coach kit. I think it's just the gaslight vents. So I've just cut them out and then I've just glued them on. So they kind of look like point handles. They also kind of look like something else, but you can decide what that is. I'm going to paint them now. There you go. It's a bit difficult to see in some spots, but there is the point handles painted up and then glued in place. I've just put a bit of cork underneath just to raise them to the same level as the track. So a couple there, a few there, and 2 more there. I think they look all right. They sort of represent what I want them to be. So next I think I'm going to move on to doing the sculptor mould on the embankment. Okay, I'm not sure how much of the sculptor moulding you saw in the time lapse, because I need to go back through and watch, but I did realise when I went to stop recording, I just dumped the roses tub in front of the camera, so there probably wasn't a lot going on there. In fact, I've probably edited it out. But this is the sculptor mould embankment. What I realised was when I started filling it in, I needed to put something in the cavities, because otherwise I was going to be just backfilling and wasting lots of sculptor mould in the sort of, as I said, the cavities in there. So I just cut some foam board and just stuck it in and then built up around it. Didn't need to glue it in, just sort of, just as long as it was there, just to stop the sculptor mould going in too deep. So that's there, and that's a little bit there. So I'm gonna let that dry. Next job, I think, well, I'm gonna have to repair that. I've not obviously knocked that in me, bugger. Never mind. Yeah, that's a repair job then. And I think probably ballasting next. So I've got my ballast. I've mixed some of the Gauge Master fine ballast, just like that really shiny stuff, with some fine wooden scenics grey, just to get a nice blend of colour. I think that looks all right, especially when it's glued down and weathered on. I'm not going to show you how to ballast track. There are plenty of videos out there, and quite frankly, it takes me about 4 goes with the glue before it all actually is stuck down, so I am no expert on ballasting. I'm going to return when the track is ballast. Is ballast? Is ballasted. Me not speak England good. Okay, so I let the ballast dry overnight, and then I just took it out because it's been a nice warm day just to finish off drying in the sun. There's a few patches where I've missed and it's fallen off, but it's not too bad. It's quite garish on the camera. It's not that bad in real life. And then I've gone and done the back seam. So this is just hardboard. I've just cut to size, and then I've just painted it with some blue emulsion, and then just got some white primer spray and just sprayed on some clouds just to break that stark blue up. But I think that's come out quite well. Now this side is a bit of a problem, and you can't really see it on here. But what I originally tried to do was the free Pico back seams that they give away every December. I tried using them first for the layout, and that went disastrously wrong. And then unfortunately the paste stroke glue that I tried using then made the paint all sis up. So I had to sand it down, scrape it off, try and paint it again. I kept doing it a couple of times. There's still a little bit on there, there's still a bit of cracking, but that'll be hidden by various scenery, so it should be all right. But yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare, that bit. So yeah, I think next job is just then patch up the ballast. It's probably going to need a bit of weathering. I'm just going to wait for the sculptor mould to dry. It's still a bit damp, and then I can paint that and then start working on more of the scenics. So I've gone over with the ballast, just filling in any of the patches, and then I've just made sure all my points move, which they now do. So that is all done and sorted. Next job, I'm just going to paint this AK Terrains asphalt just around the warehouse areas, just for the ground, so around there and just around there. And then I'll probably start moving on to a bit more green sort of scenics. Right then, I've painted the tarmac areas. I'm going to leave that to dry off. So the next job is everything that is currently brown is going to get a coating of some blended turf. So I'm going to move on to that. There we are then, that's the green blended turf all added. Now I must confess, I've had a bit of a mishap over here because I've been using World War Scenics static grass layering spray just to secure the turf. However, I also had a tin of white acrylic primer right next to it, and as you can tell, I may have muddled them up. Hopefully I can make that disappear, otherwise it's going to be a cold and frosty morning. So I've just gone over the layout with some brown earth scatter just to go on sort of the edges, because the grass right up the ballast just didn't look natural at all. So it sort of gives that more sort of dead sort of growth area. Still kind of very 2D at the moment. And then I've used the brown earth up top here to do the farm track. So next I'm going to start applying some static grass, probably a few bushes, etc., and start building up the scenery. Okay, so I've kind of flown along with the scenics on this layout. I've added fences. So this is from West Hill Wagon Works. It's depot fencing in its TT scale. Now it's quite easy to install because I just glued it to the side of the walkway. So that was a nice little easy job. To get this sort of security fencing all around the warehouses and the depot, that's GWR 00 gauge station fencing that I've sprayed silver. And I think that's quite effective. I've used it before on an N gauge layout for security fencing, so there's not much difference in size really between this TT and British N, to be honest. It's not massive. So again, I think that's worked out quite well. You can see I've started putting on a lot of scenics. I've sort of gone for that trying to go for that late summer look, that sort of yellowy burnt grass look. I think it's come out quite well here. Over here I tried using some summer static grass, but my god, I mean on the camera it looks horrendous. It's not that bright in real life. But that definitely needs toning down with a bit more yellows and a few bushes in the middle, etc. But I shall work on that tomorrow. Okay, right, I have now added all the static grass to the layout. I've used various shades and lengths. I'm just gone for that late summer sort of burnt grass, sort of strawy look. I've tried to do the farm track here, so I've kind of leave the ruts in the middle. Probably need to go back over that with a bit of brown earth just to make it a bit more visible. And then I've gone down to this side of the railway track. Obviously you've seen that bit already. And then around here, all the way over here. So I've tried to leave this sort of a sort of wasteland kind of look. So it's very short, sort of dead grass. Nothing really grows much here, and it's all because the land's kind of been disturbed when the warehouse has been built and the railway line's been built, etc. So sort of a more dead area. I put a few weeds and that in, but probably just leave it like that. Maybe a few tall plants against the fence. Over here, I've tried to go for some really long grass. It's a really sort of overgrown area. So the longest there is the Woodland Scenics 8mm straw. Now, I don't know what it is about Woodland Scenics, because it definitely feels different material-wise. This is my static grass applicator, and that's the one I use, and it's a very good one. I always see it in the magazines as one of the highly recommended ones, and I too would highly recommend it. I find it a very good static grass applicator. Not that I've used any others to compare it to, but it does seem very good. But I do find that Woodland Scenics static grass seems to be made of something different to the green scene stuff I usually use, or sometimes I'll use Jarvis Pico as well. Those three all seem to be made of a sort of linties type material. There's this sort of longer Woodland Scenic stuff feels a bit more plasticky, and I find it doesn't respond as well to the static charge, and it has a tendency to fall over. So when I apply now, I always put a shorter layer on to about 2mm, build it up to 4mm, and then put this final layer on with hopes that the shorter grass will then help this grass stand up. It has done for the most part. You can see there's a few patches in the middle there where it's sort of fallen over, but from a distance it looks all right. So that's all the static grass on, and I'm now going to move on to adding some shrubbery. And here we are then. It's some bushes added on. I sort of added lynch in and then covered it in flock. Might go back over that one. It's a bit sort of bone white, that one. Yeah, we'll see. I've done a bit more over here, rubberized horsehair. So it's really overgrown in this corner. Partly because I ran out of fence. So I had to have something to block people getting in round this way. All around there, this sort of scrublands, or a bit of overgrown. I'm going to put some trees on it. I think, just to finish things off, but I don't want to go over the top with the bushes. Just a bit of flock here and there, a bit more around there, and then just a few weeds growing over here. Might put a few little more weeds in the gaps of the concrete, but we'll see about that. But yep, so that is the layout so far. I think it's looking all right. Just a couple of trees, I think, to finish it off, secure the back scene, and then I need to do a little wall to go behind those buffer stops there. I think pretty much done then. Just need to attach the fiddle yard board and just build a cassette. So hopefully you found that video useful and informative. If you've liked it, then click the like button. If you want to see more and you haven't clicked it already, then click the subscribe button. And yeah, there's a bit more to do on the layout. I can only go so far. There's only so many products out there. It's sort of a slow grower really, because I'm going to get to a point where certain things I need that currently aren't on the market. But for the time being, I think there's a little bit more to do to get a running layout. So hopefully I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.